Julian's stepsister was pregnant again. This was her fourth time in 2 years, and this time, Julian decided to keep the baby. Chloe's mother has late-stage cancer, and her last wish is to hold her grandchild. She's already terminated 3 for me, her uterus is too thin to risk another. I nodded, okay, let's keep it. The child is innocent. I stopped making a scene, and he, surprisingly, seemed uncomfortable with it. Serena, you promised me this. Once the baby is born, you can't cause trouble. I smiled, no more trouble. He looked pleased, quickly taking a continuously vomiting Chloe to the hospital. The dinner hadn't even begun, but it was already over. I stood alone on the stage, trembling with a smile. Tipping my head back to fight off tears, I dialed the number. Marcus, is your offer from yesterday still valid? The man paused, steadying his voice, which was trembling slightly with excitement. Of course, Mississippi. Late at night, Julian returned, his face etched with fatigue. He saw me sitting blankly on the sofa and casually handed me a box of cake. Are you hungry? This is Chloe's favorite tiramisu. Her sickness makes her unable to eat, and it would be a shame to throw it away. I glanced at the messy, scooped-out cake, and instead of getting angry, I laughed. Julian, am I someone to be treated with such contempt? He froze for a moment, then sighed helplessly. I've told you many times, I only see her as a sister. Serena, you're the one I've always loved. Believe me, even if she and I have a child, it won't affect our relationship. Our wedding will proceed as scheduled in 3 months. I tugged at the corner of my mouth. Is that so? Your heart may love me, but your body is quite honest. He frowned and gently pulled me into his arms. Didn't you promise not to make a scene? I'm not that kind of person. But's pregnancy isn't stable right now, and I don't feel comfortable with her being alone, so she'll move in with us until the baby is born. I took a deep breath and pushed him away. Are you finished? His face instantly darkened. Serena, can't you just talk to me properly? How can we communicate if you act like this? I lowered my head, suppressing the ache in my chest, and said softly, there's nothing left to say. Let's break up. His pupils constricted, his face filled with shock. 5 years of our relationship, I just proposed to you in front of everyone, and you want to break up over such a trivial matter? I suddenly stood up, my eyes red. Trivial matter? A trivial matter that's happened 4 times in 2 years? Fine. He stood up abruptly, nodding with a sneer. Let me tell you, Serena, no one but me could put up with your temper. Just then, James announced that Chloe had arrived. Julian immediately started to leave, not forgetting to condescendingly instruct me. Please control your temper and be accommodating to the pregnant woman. Don't make things difficult for me, understand? The door slammed shut. I stood frozen, a heavy stone pressing on my chest. Tears welled up in my eyes, and I hastily wiped them away. I absolutely couldn't cry. If he saw me, he'd just think I was trying to gain sympathy or appease him. In the courtyard, Chloe affectionately linked her arm through his, smiling brightly. Julian's gaze was entirely on her, occasionally reminding her gently, slow down, watch your step. When they reached the steps, he swept her into his arms. The steps are too high. You need bed rest now and can't take any risks. I stared intently at those 3 short steps, my nails digging deep into my palms. 2 years ago, after my appendectomy, I was sweating profusely from the pain, yet I had to move up these steps one by one myself. And he walked ahead, mocking me without looking back. Serena, have you put on enough of an act? Don't be so delicate. It turned out he wasn't incapable of doting on someone. He just wouldn't dote on me. The servants moved Chloe's more than 20 suitcases. Oh, the master bedroom. I stared at Julian, waiting for his explanation. Chloe is a light sleeper, and the master bedroom is quiet. He didn't even lift his eyelids. You move out and pick any other room to stay in. Chloe immediately waved her hand, feigning modesty. How can this be? The bedroom is for the master and mistress of the house. If I move in, Serena will be unhappy. I cut short her performance. Since you know I'd be unhappy, why don't you just get out? Serena. Julian warned sharply, watch your attitude. Chloe clearly hadn't expected me to be so direct. She froze for 2 seconds before clutching her belly and beginning to sob. Serena, I know you must hate me right now, and you must despise the child in my womb even more. I don't want this either, but my mother doesn't have much time left, and I don't want her to leave with any regrets. I rolled my eyes. What does that have to do with me? She immediately cried inconsolably, not forgetting to lunge and grab me. I'm sorry, I'm so sorry, Serena. Please forgive me, okay? Too fed up to bother with her, I shook her off and turned to leave. But she suddenly cried out in pain and collapsed into Julian's arms. Looking down, I saw a clear red scratch on my arm, caused by Chloe's fingernails. Chloe has been sensitive to blood since childhood. Julian's eyes were blazing. How dare you show her a wound? He shoved me away, frantically instructing James to call an ambulance. His voice was even trembling. My back slammed hard against the corner of the table, but I felt numb, unable to feel the pain. I just found it amusing. The last time I rolled down a hill during a hike, my life hanging by a thread, he never lost his composure like this. He constantly professed his love for me. He probably couldn't even tell who he truly loved. When the ambulance arrived, Chloe was already awake. Julian was still worried, questioning the doctor persistently. Doctor, does she really not need to be hospitalized? Will T recur? Will there be any complications? The doctor shook his head helplessly. It's just a minor sensitivity to blood. She just needs rest. Only after confirming Chloe was fine did Julian spare a thought for me. I was angry just now, and Chloe's situation was urgent, so I spoke harshly to you. Before he could finish, I dragged my suitcase, preparing to leave. But blocked me. Where are you going? I ignored him and walked straight ahead. He forcefully hugged me, and Chloe's perfume instantly enveloped me, making me feel almost nauseous. Listen to me, he whispered, going back so late will worry your parents. If you want to go home, I'll take you tomorrow. Such rare tenderness, hinting that I should take the hint and stop. In the past, I would have certainly cried and thrown myself into his arms, saying, I was wrong, I shouldn't have thrown a tantrum. But this time, I pushed him away forcefully and said indifferently, get out of my way. I said, you'll leave tomorrow. He furiously kicked over my suitcase, grabbed my wrist, and roughly dragged me into the storage room. Serena, I put up with you for too long. I've spoiled you too much, you need to reflect. The door slammed shut and was locked. Julian, you maniac, let me out. I frantically pounded on the door, but he just stood there, unmoved. Cold sweat drenched my back, my fingers twitched uncontrollably, and my breathing grew more rapid. I slid down the door to the floor, my voice already hoarse, let me out. I don't know how much time passed, but suddenly my vision went black, and I collapsed heavily to the floor. In a daze, I heard Chloe's faint sobs. Julian, Serena really seems unwell. She's probably not faking it. Maybe you should let her out? I can actually understand her. She loves you so much that she hates me. Or maybe we should get rid of this baby? We've already terminated 3, what's one more? As for my mother, I'll just accept being unfilial. As she spoke, she was already sobbing uncontrollably. Julian quickly embraced her, gently comforting her. Don't mind her. She's always playing these little games, and I'm utterly fed up with them. If my grandfather hadn't wanted to cooperate with Serena's family home back then and forced me to get close to Serena, I wouldn't have even bothered to look at her. Chloe, now you and the baby are the most important people to me. If only I had met you sooner. Julian's family home was a renowned tea family in Willow, and expanding into overseas markets depended on Serena's family home's cross-border trade channels. I spent 5 years pursuing this aloof senior, only to always be met with a cold back. Until I decided to give up, he suddenly turned around and said he'd fallen in love with me. 10 years had passed. Even after Chloe appeared, I stubbornly believed there had been true feelings between us. It turned out, it was all a calculation. I lay on the floor, my heart suddenly seizing with pain, and my entire body began to ache. I desperately pounded on the door with my last ounce of strength, my voice a mere whisper, Julian, please, I'm really going to die. When I woke again, I was in a hospital room. Julian sat by the window, his slender fingers sifting through new tea. Sunlight illuminated his sharply defined face, he looked like he was glowing. I averted my gaze, my eyes aching intensely. Awake? He turned around, a rare apology on his face. The doctor said it was a sudden claustrophobia attack. I'm sorry, I shouldn't have. When can I leave? I interrupted him directly. We have to wait for the test results. He peeled a grape and offered it to me. Are you still uncomfortable? Want to eat something? This is your favorite kind. I glanced at it but didn't take it. His hand froze in midair. I turned my face away and opened my cell phone. A dozen missed calls, all from that number. Could you step out for a moment? I said calmly. I need to return a call. His eyes darkened. I'll go find the attending physician. As soon as the door closed, I dialed the number. Marcus's voice held suppressed anger. I waited for you for 8 hours at the agreed time and place. Is this your business integrity? Even if you were going to break the appointment, couldn't you have told me beforehand? Even if we set aside that, even without prior notice, I called you so many times, you could have at least answered. I was worried something had happened to you. The sudden concern from a relative stranger made me pause. I'm sorry, I'm at the hospital right now. What? The hospital? His voice suddenly rose. What happened? Where are you hurt? I hadn't expected the rumored decisive Marcus, head of the Ling family, to have such a flustered personality. I couldn't help but chuckle. I'm fine. Since I agreed to the arranged marriage, for business alliance, I won't break it off. The wedding preparations will continue as planned. When the call ended, the smile hadn't yet left my lips. Julian pushed the door open just then, his gaze heavy. Who were you talking to? You don't know them, I casually brushed him off. He scrutinized me for a long time before speaking stiffly. You can be discharged. I'll take you back to Serena's family home. However, I need to wait until I've accompanied Chloe for her prenatal checkup, she can't manage it alone. I nodded calmly, saying nothing. His chest rose and fell rapidly, and he finally lost control, roaring, Serena, are you giving me the silent treatment? What exactly do you want me to do? I calmly pointed to his vibrating cell phone. Your call. He hastily answered, his voice instantly soft as water. Hello, Chloe. As he spoke, he hurried out of the hospital room, as if his earlier outburst had never happened. Less than 10 minutes later, Chloe's social media post was updated. In the photo, she leaned shyly against him, their hands forming a heart shape over her bulging belly. The caption read, 2 people, 3 heartbeats. T.S. I was long accustomed to such scenes. Every time I saw them before, my heart would ache, and I couldn't help but confront him. But this time, I calmly liked the post and even commented, so happy. Envious of your beautiful family of 3. Putting away my cell phone, I handled my own discharge procedures. No need to wait for Julian to return. Every time Chloe called, he'd be as if bewitched, and wouldn't reappear for 3 to 5 days. Just as I stepped out of the hospital room, Julian's mother called, her joy barely concealed in her voice. Serena, did you break up with Julian? I always said you two weren't a good match. Julian has liked Chloe since childhood, and we always thought of Chloe as our daughter-in-law, but his grandfather insisted that Serena's family home was a better match for us. Actually, Chloe's family background wasn't bad originally, but her father passed away early, and no one managed the family business, so it declined rapidly. Since they have a child now, you shouldn't cling on anymore. Learn to let go. With the strength of Serena's family home, finding a partner isn't hard, but you definitely won't find anyone better than Julian. Or perhaps I could introduce you to the Tang family? Mr. Tang is a bit older and divorced with a child, but he's very considerate, a perfect complement to your temperament. Eleanor, I interrupted coldly, don't trouble yourself. I already have a partner. Before she could react, I hung up and blocked her number. I had always known she didn't like me as a prospective daughter-in-law. But I hadn't expected that even after Julian and I broke up, she'd still try to upset me. I suddenly remembered the first time I went to Julian's family home for dinner. On the dining table, there were only 2 lonely dishes, a plate of steamed greens and a plain salad. Back then, I foolishly smiled and ate it all, thinking that tolerance would earn me acceptance. Looking back now, it was utterly ridiculous. I waited for tea. He elevator to descend to the first floor. With a ding, the elevator doors slowly opened. In the dim light, Julian had Chloe pressed against the wall, kissing her. My heart froze, and I turned to leave, but they spotted me. Chloe leaned languidly in Julian's arms, her gaze provocative, showing no intention of hiding anything. Julian's expression subtly shifted, and he discreetly pushed her away. Serena, Chloe got something in her eye. I was helping her. He shot Chloe a glance, signaling her to go along with the clumsy lie. Chloe tilted her head, blinking her eyes in feigned innocence. Only when Julian's face completely darkened did she vaguely say, as if suddenly understanding, Serena, there's really nothing going on between us. Don't overthink it. Did they think I was blind? I couldn't help but let out a cold laugh. No need to explain. I don't care. Chloe was at a loss, on the verge of tears. Julian narrowed his eyes dangerously. I told you I don't like your sarcastic way of speaking. Wasn't last night's lesson enough? Not wanting to provoke him further, I lowered my eyelids. I won't say anything more. Julian scoffed, then roughly pulled me into the elevator. I'm taking you back to Serena's family home. Chloe followed inside, looking aggrieved. Serena, after you fainted last night, Julian was so worried he almost cried. Please don't be angry with him anymore, okay? I nodded obediently. Okay. Her provocation was like punching cotton, she was immediately speechless. Inside the car, Julian drove with a grim expression, and Chloe sat in the passenger seat as if it were her rightful place. Serena, she turned to look at me, I need to go to the mall to buy maternity underwear. It's on the way. You don't mind, do you? Before I could speak, Julian said coldly, she has no right to say no. I didn't bother to respond, looking down to check the message Marcus had sent. Serena, I've sent you the wedding venue and dress options. Please choose one. A. If it's an arranged marriage, for business alliance, I take it seriously. I hope you can understand. Just as I was about to tap on the images, another message popped up. Previous message retracted. My parents take it seriously. Where are you now? Can we meet today? I quickly replied with my destination, unable to hold back a laugh. Marcus was so amusing. For some reason, it felt like I'd known him before. Is your cell phone that entertaining? Who are you chatting with so happily? Julian's cold voice came from the front. Chloe immediately turned to look at me, a flicker of jealousy in her eyes. I suppressed my smile and closed my eyes. I'm tired, going to sleep for a bit. The car immediately fell silent, save for Julian's heavy breathing. In the lingerie store, as soon as Chloe entered the fitting room, Julian followed her in. The sales assistants whispered among themselves. Isn't that the young master of Julian's family home's tea? He's so good to his wife, even helping her try on lingerie personally. Is that woman outside a nanny? She looks like she's here to take care of the pregnant woman. I clarified with a wry smile, we don't know each other, I just hitched a ride. Before I finished speaking, Julian walked out with a sullen face, his lips pressed into a thin line. Julian is so clumsy, Chloe said with a charming smile, grabbing my wrist. Serena, why don't you come help me try it on? As soon as the door closed, Chloe's expression instantly changed. Serena, you really have a high tolerance. You've been cuckolded for 2 years, have you just gotten used to it? Started to just put up with it? Or are you trying to play hard to get, so Julian will dump me and marry you? Do you really think Julian likes you? He only tolerates you because of his grandfather. Once his grandfather dies, you'll be the first one kicked out. You sure seem to covet a scummy man like Julian, I said, looking at her coldly. Chloe, you've had 3 abortions for him, and he still hasn't said he'll marry you. Yet you insist on clinging to him. Are you proud of that? You don't understand our feelings at all, she shrieked suddenly, then smiled eerily. The next second, she stumbled out of the fitting room. Serena, I was wrong, please don't kick my belly, you'll hurt the baby. She clutched her abdomen tightly with both hands, sobbing and stumbling crookedly into Julian's arms. I let out an exasperated sigh and said coldly, Chloe, are you addicted to acting? No sooner had I spoken than Julian mercilessly kicked me to the ground. Serena, why would you hurt Chloe and the child? Explain. I curled up on the ground, a sharp pain in my abdomen, blood trickling from the corner of my mouth. Julian paused, then sighed helplessly, gently wiping the blood from my lips. Serena, tell me why you did this? Give me a reasonable explanation, and I won't hold it against you. I understood what he meant, he was giving me an out, an opportunity to save face. Looking at his earnest eyes, I laughed sardonically. How can I give you a reason for something I didn't do? Even if I fabricate a reason? Then what? You'll make me kneel and apologize to her again, won't you? My stubbornness utterly disappointed him. He tugged at the corner of his mouth with a self-deprecating smile, then took Chloe's hand and turned to leave. Stop. A cold male voice cut through the air. Dare to lay a hand on my fiancé? Are you looking for a death wish? Fiancé? Julian froze. The moment he turned around, a heavy punch landed squarely on his face. He staggered back. Before he could regain his balance, Marcus kicked him in the back of the knee, sending him directly to his knees, unable to stand for a moment. Julian! Chloe shrieked, rushing over and frantically checking his injuries. Are you okay? Where are you hurt? Julian shoved her away, spat out a mouthful of bloody saliva, his eyes dark. Marcus, what is the meaning of this? But ignored him, gently eeping me into his arms, then slowly said, Mr. Shin, is your hearing bad, or is your mind bad? Julian's pupils constricted. His gaze darted back and forth between Marcus and me, finally fixing on me. Serena, tell me yourself, who is he? That commanding tone again. I turned my face away in annoyance. My fiancé. Satisfied? You dare to find another man behind my back? And you chose my rival? Julian roared. When did I ever permit this? I couldn't help but let out a cold laugh. Why do I need your permission? Julian, have you forgotten? We've already broken up. Julian froze, his face etched with disbelief. Just a casual breakup you mentioned in a fit of pique yesterday? You've said let's break up countless times over the years, when was it ever real? I said I wanted to keep Chloe's baby, and you readily agreed not to make a scene. And what happened? You turned around and found yourself a fiancé. Are you just desperate? Can't you live without a man? Chloe immediately fanned the flames. Julian, Serena just wants to make you jealous by finding another man. Just humor her. Julian's tone indeed softened, but he still spoke commandingly. Serena, come back. I'll pretend your bullying of Chloe never happened. I felt bewildered, about to tell him not to flatter himself. But spoke first, scoffing disdainfully. Julian, you call that humoring someone? Are you sick? It's not that Serena can't live without a man, it's that I can't live without Serena. I'm desperate to marry her, understand? A grown man with such a foul mouth and such a small mind, can't even break up with dignity. If family home's tea falls into your hands, it'll be doomed eventually. Julian's face turned ashen from being rebutted. Marcus, shut up. Marcus held me and turned to leave, not forgetting to deliver a final jab before he went. Mr. Shen, you're welcome to attend Serena's and my wedding next week. Marcus. Julian was so furious he tried to chase us, but his leg injury mad. See him stumble and fall to the ground. Chloe frantically called out to the sales assistants to summon an ambulance, holding Julian and crying heartbrokenly. Marcus smirked triumphantly. That kick of mine will put him in the hospital for a week. Want to attend our wedding? Dream on. He looked down at me, his eyes as expectant as a child asking for candy. Serena, you don't want him at the wedding either, do you? Meeting his gentle gaze, I uncomfortably turned my face away. Marcus, please put me down. I can walk on my own. Being held like this by a man I'd only met a few times in business meetings made me feel entirely uneasy, but he tightened his arms, the smile in his eyes almost overflowing. No way. You need to go to the hospital for a checkup first. No, I really can walk by myself. Before I could finish, he suddenly put on a wounded expression, actually looking a little pathetic. I just want to hold you. Is that so wrong? Marcus, usually so stern, showed such a stark contrast in this moment that I was momentarily dazed, and inexplicably replied, okay. Julian was a wreck. Lying in the ambulance, he still tightly clenched his fists. He couldn't understand how Serena, whom he had proposed to just yesterday, had thrown herself into another man's arms today. What was even harder for him to accept was that this man was the head of the Marcus family's tea, Julian's family home's sworn enemy. For years, the two families had been rivals in the tea market. 5 years ago, it was with the help of Serena's family home that Julian's family home managed to leave the Marcus family behind. But in the past 2 years, the Marcus family had gradually overtaken Julian's family home through product innovation. If the Marcus family were to form an arranged marriage, for business alliance, with Serena's family home, Julian's family home would inevitably decline. These business implications should have been his biggest concern. But at this moment, his mind was filled with the image of Serena looking delicate as she nestled in Marcus's arms. Thinking of this, he wished he could kill that scoundrel immediately. Driver, stop the car, he roared, but only earned a scornful look from the nurse. Sir, this is an ambulance. If you insist on getting off, please sign a waiver refusing treatment first. Fine, I won't get treated. Give me the paper to sign. Julian answered decisively, but Chloe, by his side, clung to him, desperately shedding tears. Julian, can we please go to the hospital first? What could be more important than your health right now? Julian looked at her coldly, his gaze terrifyingly unfamiliar. Serena is marrying someone else. Isn't that important? What's the difference between that and taking my life? As soon as the words left his mouth, he himself froze. It turned out that, at some unknown point, the name Serena had already been deeply etched into his very being. Suddenly, a ring box slipped out of his suit pocket. He opened it with trembling hands. The words Julian loves Serena engraved inside the diamond ring stung his eyes. Yesterday, he had clearly knelt on one knee, but just as the ring was about to slip onto her finger, he suddenly pulled his hand back, embraced Chloe, and left without looking back. He couldn't even imagine how desperate she must have felt, left alone on stage in front of everyone. Julian's heart began to pound inexplicably, as if something was twisting it, a suffocating, dull pain. Stop. Let me out immediately. He roared hoarsely, ignoring Chloe's protests, forcefully trying to get out of the ambulance. Chloe cried until her makeup was ruined, her voice distorted. Julian, didn't you always want to be with me? Serena was just a trophy wife you promised your grandfather you'd marry. Now that she's voluntarily stepping aside, if I marry you, won't our family of 3 be together legitimately? Delusional. Julian interrupted angrily, his eyes as cold as ice. When did I ever say I would, ma? RRYU? Chloe stared blankly at him. Then what were the past 2 years? You'd rather watch Serena cry and make a scene than separate from me. You were gentle and caring towards me in every way. We even had 4 children. What do you take me for? Julian froze, stunned by the question. He didn't know why. Perhaps it was his obsession with Chloe from his youth, or perhaps, at his core, he was simply a complete scoundrel. Thinking of this, he couldn't help but laugh self-deprecatingly. Chloe, don't ask me why. For a man like me, if you keep clinging to me, what exactly are you after? I love you. Chloe suddenly lunged, clutching his face tightly with both hands, her expression almost manic. I've loved you since I first saw you when I was a teenager. Isn't that enough? Julian pushed her away in disgust. Love? I don't need it. The nurse disdainfully handed him a liability waiver, looking at him as if he were something filthy. Julian quickly signed, and the moment he pushed open the ambulance door, Chloe clutched her belly, crying in pain. Julian, please stay, for the sake of our child, okay? He slammed the ambulance door shut without looking back. However, as soon as his feet touched the ground, a sharp pain shot through his knee, and he immediately collapsed to his knees. He immediately gritted his teeth. What did that scoundrel Marcus do to my leg? Mom and Dad found out about Julian and me breaking up. After blocked me, she was so furious that she called my parents directly to complain. Unexpectedly, on the other end of the line, my mom's voice held unconcealed delight. Good riddance. That scoundrel from Julian's family home isn't worthy of my daughter. Your dad had his eye on Marcus's family home's child 5 years ago, but you only had eyes for Julian. Had his eye on him 5 years ago? I subconsciously turned to look at Marcus in the driver's seat. His profile, flickering in the streetlight, strangely looked familiar. Have we met before? I couldn't help but ask aloud. He suddenly let out a long breath. Serena, are you finally starting to remember me? Come on, I'll take you somewhere to clear your head and see if you can remember. Finally, he took me to a riverfront park with an excellent view. Across the river was a sparkling city, and celebratory fireworks occasionally burst in the night sky. This was the place I always came to zone out alone whenever Julian broke my heart. The river breeze, laden with moisture, swept over me, and I suddenly chuckled. Marcus immediately turned to look at me, staring blankly, the corners of his mouth unconsciously curling upwards. A scene suddenly flashed in my mind. A man wearing gold-rimmed glasses, dressed in a sharp suit, stood by the river, clumsily casting a fishing rod. The next second, his foot slipped, and he fell straight into the river. Well, that shouldn't really count as a rescue, should it? I said, a little embarrassed. The river wasn't even knee-deep. It's just that you fell so hard, your glasses flew off, and you had seaweed hanging on your face. Thinking of him covered in seaweed and looking disheveled at the time, I couldn't help but laugh aloud. I just helped you clean up a bit. Marcus straightened his face, looking serious. Saving my dignity, doesn't that count as a rescue? I sighed, putting a hand to my forehead. If you put it that way, then I guess it does. But inwardly, I couldn't help but wonder, he wants to marry me just because of that. He seemed to read my mind, lifting his chin slightly, and said confidently, love at first sight, plus saving my dignity. I think that's a perfectly valid reason. I paused for a moment before realizing, is this a confession? He chuckled. Will you say yes? I pouted. We're getting married in a week. How could I say no? Outside's family home, Julian stood by the iron gate, leaning on a crutch. Seeing my figure, he stumbled forward 2 steps, his face filled with regret. Serena, I'm sorry. Tioch. The past 2 years have been all my fault. I shouldn't have been entangled with Chloe, and I shouldn't have trampled on your true feelings again and again. When you said today you were marrying someone else, I realized I can't live without you. I promise you, I'll completely cut ties with Chloe. Will you come back with me, okay? No, I said coldly, walking around him. Serena. In his haste, he let go of his crutch to grab me, resulting in a heavy fall to the ground. He looked up, a bitter smile on his face. That child, I don't want it anymore either. I don't want anything but you, okay? I paused, almost laughing from sheer anger. Even now, he thought I was leaving because of the child in Chloe's belly? Forget it. I walked forward without looking back, feeling that even a glance at him was superfluous. Only then did he notice Marcus behind me, his voice suddenly turning cold. Marcus, I'm begging you. If you're a man, then don't involve Serena in the business rivalry between the Shen and Ling families, okay? Shut up, Julian. I spun around abruptly, rage flaring. The arranged marriage between the Marcus and Sue families involves no business interests. The family isn't as underhanded as Julian's family home. Julian's pupils constricted violently, and he hastily explained, "No, Serena. I admit it was my grandfather's arrangement initially, but later, I truly fell in love with you." Love? I scoffed. That word, coming from his mouth, was simply laughable. Every time he messed up in the past, he would swear with red eyes, "Serena, I only love you." Hearing that word again now, I just felt nauseous. "Get out." Julian's body trembled, his face looking as if he'd been stabbed. "Serena, you never used to treat me like this. Why are you protecting Marcus?" He turned to Marcus, his voice hoarse. "Marcus, if you're a man, stand up for yourself. What kind of skill is it to hide behind a woman?" Marcus raised an eyebrow, slowly adjusted his cuff, and suddenly landed a punch on Julian's face. "I put up with you for too long." He shook his reddened knuckles. "You're acting like an old woman, you're the one who's not a man. If you're going to be a scoundrel, be thorough about it. Go live happily with your stepsister and stop bothering Serena." After saying that, he extended his hand to me, deliberately acting spoiled. "Serena, blow on it for me. My hand hurts from hitting him." I was about to roll my eyes when a heart-wrenching wail suddenly erupted. Chloe, who had appeared unnoticed, was now clinging to Julian's back, glaring at me with venomous eyes. "Serena, is your fiancé some kind of violent maniac? When he can't argue, he resorts to violence. Do you think Julian is easy to bully?" I took a deep breath. What a lucky day it was that these two pests had decided to show up together. Julian alone was annoying enough, with Chloe added, my doorstep was practically turning into a daytime soap opera melodrama. "Chloe," I said coldly, "it's not your place to dictate how my fiancé is. You just need to control your man and take Julian away." Chloe stared intently at me for a few seconds, seemingly confirming whether I had truly given up on Julian. Suddenly, Chloe gently went to help Julian. "Julian, let's go. A heartless woman like her isn't worth your affection. Get away from me." Julian violently pushed her away, his eyes fierce. "What are you even to me?" Chloe stumbled backward from the push, her face as pale as paper. "I poured my heart out for you. What about Serena makes her so much better than me? She even let someone beat you like this, and you're still so blind?" Julian's eyes were bloodshot, his voice terribly hoarse. "Didn't you hear me tell you to get lost? If you hadn't clung to me like a clingy person, why would Serena have left me?" Watching their hysterical behavior, I impatiently ruffled my hair. "Security, please escort these two out." As the security guards escorted them out, Julian suddenly burst into tear-wrenching cries, "Serena! I'm sorry, please forgive me." The world suddenly fell silent. Marcus gently covered my ears with his hands. When he looked down at me, his eyes held tender concern. "If I had known this would happen, I would never have let you go back then. Serena, facing all this alone these past years must have been so hard, wasn't it?" My nose suddenly stung, and memories flooded back, bringing me to a rainy day 5 years ago. That rainy day 5 years ago, it was also in front of this iron gate. Julian, pulling me, who was dissolved in tears, said emotionlessly, "I can be with you." I dropped my umbrella and threw myself into his arms, soaked to the bone but laughing like an idiot. Not far away, a figure holding a black umbrella stood for a long time before finally turning and walking away. That man must have been Marcus. On our wedding day, Julian sat alone in the last row of the guest seating. He was so thin he was almost barely recognizable, watching me with red-rimmed eyes the entire time. When the officiant announced the ceremony was complete, he suddenly clutched his mouth and burst into tears, stumbling away amidst the astonished gazes of the crowd. 6 months later, a truly lamentable piece of news arrived. After gave birth, she left the infant at Julian's family home. She went to the seaside alone, scattered her mother's ashes, and then threw herself into the ocean. That same day, Julian received a package. Inside, after he opened it, were 3 glass jars, representing the 3 children Chloe had aborted for him. By this time, Julian had long been disowned by William and spent his days drinking himself into oblivion. Seeing these, his last shred of sanity collapsed. He seemed to finally understand that he was the true culprit behind everything. One rainy night, he rushed out of his home in a frenzy and was never heard from again. Years later, some people claimed to have seen a monk resembling Julian in a secluded mountain monastery. Minu. Heil, our second child was already in kindergarten. Our little one, perched on Marcus's lap, asked in a sweet, childish voice, "Daddy, why do you always like to fish in a suit?" Marcus peeked at me, then lowered his voice, saying, "How else would I attract your mom?" Daddy fished so many times, but it was only that one time I deliberately fell into the river that she finally came to look at me. I pretended not to hear their whispers, but the corners of my mouth couldn't help but turn up. Thank you for watching today's story. If you enjoyed this video, please like it and share it with your friends. We look forward to hearing your thoughts in the comments section. Feel free to share your views, and don't forget to subscribe to our channel for more exciting stories. See you next time.